Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a comment. Because today we're diving into a story that is straight out of a political thriller. We've got love triangles, alleged blackmail, and high-powered lawyers going head-to-head. We're talking about the very public and very messy legal battle between journalists Olivia Nuzzi and her ex-fiancé, Lizza, with a special guest appearance by none other than Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
It's just fascinating to see how the personal and professional lives of these prominent journalists are kind of colliding in such a public way. The case really raises questions about power dynamics, reputation management, and the limits of privacy in the digital age.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Nuzzi and Lizza were engaged, both big names in the world of journalism. Then enters Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who, by the way, is married. Nuzzi and Kennedy Jr. had a digital affair, as the court documents put it. And as you might imagine, this led to a very messy breakup between Nuzzi and Lizza.
Well, what's interesting here is that the court documents are really at the heart of this whole saga. Newsy is accusing Lizza of trying to blackmail her into staying in the relationship after he discovered the affair with Kennedy Jr. She even managed to get a temporary protected order against Lizza without him even knowing about the filing until CNN alerted him.
You can't make this stuff up. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Lizza is fighting back, saying he wants transparency. His legal team is arguing that Nuzzi is trying to silence him by sealing the court records. It's kind of ironic, don't you think? A journalist try to suppress information.
Exactly. Liz's lawyers are pointing out that Newsy initially cooperated with media coverage of the case, even giving interviews. But then after Lizza filed his response denying her claims, she suddenly moved to seal the records. This raises a lot of questions about her motivations, especially given her profession.
It makes you wonder, is she genuinely concerned about privacy or trying to control the narrative now that there's a different side of the story out there? And to add another layer of complexity, both sides have brought in legal heavy hitters.
Right. Lizza has Bob Barnett and Simon Lakovich representing him. Barnett was involved in Bill Clinton's impeachment trial, and Lakovich is known for winning high-profile defamation cases. Nuzzi has Air Wilkenfeld on her side, the lawyer who represented Matt Lauer's accuser. So we're not talking about your average divorce lawyers here. The level of legal firepower involved really speaks to the potential ramifications of this case.
Yeah, it's almost like they're playing legal chess, each side trying to outmaneuver the other. And the stakes are high. Reputations, careers, maybe even legal consequences are on the line.
Yeah, it's definitely a high-stakes game. And it makes you think about the bigger picture here. We're talking about two prominent journalists, people whose job it is to uncover and report the truth, but now one of them is trying to keep information from the public.
That's the real irony here, isn't it? Transparency is supposed to be a core principle of journalism, and yet Nuzzi's attempts to seal the records seem to go against that very principle. Okay, so help me understand this a bit better. Why is transparency so important in journalism? And what are the implications of a journalist trying to suppress information, especially when it involves their personal life?
Well, transparency is essential for building trust with the public. Journalists are expected to be objective and unbiased in their reporting. When they try to control the narrative, especially when it benefits them personally, it undermines the public's faith in their reporting. In this case, Nuzzi's attempts to seal the records could be seen as an attempt to protect her reputation at the expense of Liz's.
So it's not just a personal dispute, it's about upholding the integrity of journalism as a whole.
Exactly. And this case raises some important questions about the limits of privacy in the digital age. Think about it. In today's world, information spreads like wildfire online. Once something is out there, it's virtually impossible to completely erase it.
And this case is playing out very publicly with every twist and turn being reported by the media.
That's right. And this level of scrutiny adds another layer of complexity to the whole situation.
It really makes you wonder, what would have happened if Nuzzi had simply sought to seal the records from the very beginning? Would this whole saga have become such a media frenzy?
It's hard to say for sure, but her decision to wait until after Lizza filed his response, which directly contradicted her claims, certainly raises eyebrows.
It does seem suspicious, doesn't it? It makes you think that maybe her motivations aren't as straightforward as simply wanting to protect your privacy.
And that's what Liz's lawyers are trying to argue. They're painting a picture of Nuzzi as someone who's trying to control the narrative and protect her image, even if it means bending the rules a little.
This whole thing is like a real-life legal drama unfolding before our eyes. It's fascinating, and I have to admit, a little addictive.
I agree. It's a reminder that the personal and professional lives of even the most public figures can become intertwined in unexpected and messy ways.
And with a court date set for November 19th, this case is far from over. The judge could rule on whether or not to seal those records. And that decision will have a major impact, not just on Nuzzi and Lizza, but also on the public's right to know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the judge weighs the competing interests of privacy and transparency in this case. It could set a precedent for how similar cases involving public figures are handled in the future.
Yeah, it really is like everyone involved is caught in this web, and with every move they make, the web gets more tangled.
Exactly, and as we try to untangle it, we see these larger themes emerging, right?
Yeah.
Power dynamics, media ethics, the struggle for control in a world where information is power. It's a lot to process.
It is, for example, Nuzzi getting that temporary protective order without Lizza even knowing until CNN called him. That's a power move, wouldn't you say? And then her trying to seal the records, keeping things quiet. It makes you think about how the legal system itself can be used sometimes to control the narrative.
Absolutely. And on the flip side, you have Liz's argument about transparency, that classic journalistic ideal, which adds another layer of complexity. Because isn't it interesting how a journalist, someone whose job is to reveal information, is now the one trying to prevent information from coming out?
Right. Talk about a role reversal.
Yeah.
It definitely challenges our perceptions of how the media operates and maybe even the motivations of the people behind the headlines.
Yeah, and let's not forget the lawyers in this whole drama. Bob Barnett, Simon Lakovich, for Lizza Wilkenfeld, for Nuzzi. These are legal powerhouses, people who've handled huge cases. Their presence alone tells you this is serious business.
It's like having a front row seat to a legal thriller.
Yeah.
But what does this all mean for our listeners, for everyday people? What can we learn from this whole saga?
Well, I think it's a reminder that even seemingly private matters can become very public, especially in this digital age. And it also highlights the importance of critical thinking. Don't just accept what you read at face value. Consider different perspectives. Look for the nuances.
Think for yourself, right? Because there's always more to the story than meets the eye. This case leaves us with a final question. If Nuzzi was truly concerned about privacy, why not seal the records from the start? What does that delayed action tell us? We may never know the whole truth, but it's definitely something to ponder. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into this tangled web of drama, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your own theories in the comments. We love hearing from you.